In the long history of the Beatles, there are only a few moments their producer, George Martin, ever wished he could erase. He was their mentor, their guide, their architect, the man who believed in them before the world did. But even geniuses stumble. And for Martin, there was one decision that haunted him for decades. A choice he later called the biggest mistake I ever made in my entire career with the Beatles. It wasn't about a wrong chord or a misjudged arrangement or a failed experiment. It was about a single, one that could have rewritten the band's early legacy had he chosen differently. That single was How Do You Do It? A song the Beatles never wanted, but were forced to record. A song George Martin spent years wishing he had never pushed on them. In 1962, the Beatles were desperate. They had been rejected by nearly every label in Britain. EMI was their last chance, and George Martin, polite, sharp, and skeptical, was the man who held their future in his hands. But when the Beatles walked into Abbey Road that summer, they weren't yet the band we now revere. They were raw, energetic, and full of potential, but unproven. Martin listened to their original songs, Love Me Do, P.S. I Love You, Ask Me Why, and he liked them, but he didn't trust them. He didn't think they were strong enough for a debut single, so he made a decision he would regret forever. He handed them a song written by professional songwriter Mitch Murray, a cheerful pop tune called How Do You Do It, a song engineered for the charts. A song with no soul, no grit, nothing resembling the band standing in front of him. To George Martin, it was safe. To the Beatles, it was an insult. John Lennon hated it instantly, calling it lightweight and not us. George Harrison compared it to the kind of music that teenagers bought once and forgot. Even Paul, the diplomat, said the song felt wrong for their sound, but Martin insisted. If you want a hit, he told them, this is the song. And so on September 4th, 1962, the Beatles recorded it, resentfully, mechanically, and without enthusiasm. You can hear it in the tape. The energy is flat. John's vocal is dull. The harmonies lack spark. Even Ringo, already nervous as the new drummer, sounds held back. It wasn't the Beatles, it was a Beatles imitation. But George Martin wasn't listening to passion. He was listening to numbers. He wanted a hit, and How Do You Do It sounded like one, and technically, he was right. It would later go to number 1, but not with the Beatles. After the session, John Lennon approached Martin as boldly as he dared. We can play better songs than that. Let us show you. It was a gamble, challenging the producer who controlled their future. But something in Martin shifted that day. He wasn't just working with another band. He was working with 4 young men who actually cared about what their music sounded like. John pleaded with him. Please don't release it. Give us one of our own. Paul backed him. George backed him. Even Ringo, just days into his role, backed him. And for one moment, one crucial, fragile moment, George Martin listened. He shelved How Do You Do It? He allowed the Beatles to release Love Me Do instead. It wasn't a massive hit, but it was theirs, and that, Martin realized, made all the difference. Years later, Martin admitted, releasing How Do You Do It would have been a betrayal. I nearly turned the Beatles into something they were not. The song eventually went to Jerry and the Pacemakers, who took it to number 1. Martin watched from afar, knowing that single could have belonged to him, but also knowing it would have destroyed the chemistry he built with the Beatles. He reflected, had I forced it on them, I don't think we would have had the same relationship. Maybe no relationship at all. For a man known for his foresight, this was the one moment he admitted he had failed. Not because the song was bad, but because it would have turned the Beatles into puppets instead of partners. George Martin later said that the band's refusal was the greatest thing that could have happened, because after that moment, he never again doubted their instincts. He trusted Lennon and McCartney as songwriters. He pushed them, yes, but he never again tried to turn them into something they weren't. This decision, ironically, is what made the Beatles possible. Without it, Love Me Do might never have been released. Please Please Me might never have been recorded. The Lennon-McCartney partnership might never have grown into the force it became. Everything that followed, the orchestral brilliance of Eleanor Rigby, the innovation of Tomorrow Never Knows, The ambition of a day in the life began with one simple moment of surrender. The moment George Martin admitted he was wrong. When asked late in life what he regretted most from his time with the Beatles, Martin didn't hesitate. Trying to force them to record How Do You Do It? It was the biggest mistake. I almost ruined everything. But the mistake didn't define him. The correction did. Martin listened. He adapted. He chose trust over control. And because of that, the Beatles became the greatest band the world has ever known.